The Prime Minister shows off his new team. It's Cabinet Day in Ottawa. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Navigating the issues that matter to you. It's Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Rideau Hall is once more the scene of the unveiling of another ministry. This time, once more, it's the cabinet of Prime Minister Mark Carney. There are both new and familiar faces, so let's go right to our Parliamentary Bureau Chief at News Radio, Cormac McSweeney. Thanks for joining us.
Anytime, Rob.
Well, let's talk about some of the familiar names, longtime cabinet ministers who are still cabinet ministers. Run the list down for us.
Sure. We've got Francois-Philippe Champagne, who remains in the finance position. That was a big question about whether he was going to be moved or not. If there was a time to move your finance minister shortly after an election, might have been that opportunity to do so. However, we know that, the businesses like some stability, and so Philippe Champagne remains in that position. Dominic LeBlanc is still in the trade portfolio, but with a slight change. His new portfolio is Canada-U.S. trade. So he's going to be the point guy on this trade war with the U.S. It was widely believed that he would remain in cabinet because he's got an open line of communication with some of the key members of the White House on the trade file, especially Howard Lutnick, who is leading that for President Trump. We also have Chrystia Freeland, who is remaining in cabinet. She is still the internal trade minister, another important aspect to the U.S. trade war as we look to try and bring down internal trade barriers quickly in our country. Melanie Joly is still in cabinet, but is being moved. So she's no longer in foreign affairs. She has been moved to industry, while Anita Anand now takes over the foreign affairs file. David McGuinty has been promoted to Minister of National Defense from public safety. And that means Bill Blair is out of cabinet completely. Gary Anandasangri, who at one time was the immigration minister, is now at public safety. So a lot of those key ministers from the Trudeau area with a lot of experience are being leaned on once again for some key portfolios for our country, while there's still a lot of new faces. I think 24 new members of cabinet, 13 of them were just newly elected last month.
And let's talk a little bit for our listeners in Halifax about Sean Fraser.
Yes,
has a new job, Cormac. Tell us about that.
That's right. Just so many names, I can't keep track of everybody. But yes, Sean Fraser, another big one. He was somebody who had decided to call it quits from politics and said he wouldn't run again. And then Mark Carney, head of the election, said that he wanted to have Fraser back. And so Fraser changed his mind and decided to run again in his Nova Scotia riding. And so he is taking over the justice file, which is going to be very important because crime and punishment were issues that were key on the campaign trail among those issues outside of the U.S. trade war that a lot of Canadians were paying attention to.
Okay. Let's run down some of the new names. There's a former mayor of Vancouver, now a cabinet minister, and Gregor Robertson. Cormac.
Yeah, Gregor Robertson takes over the housing file. That was held by Nathaniel Erskine-Smith, a Toronto MP, who is not in cabinet either. But we also have another key position here with Tim Hodgson. Now, it's not exactly a name that you've heard in the news before. However, he was heading up Hydro One and as formerly was the CEO of Goldman Sachs Canada, and at one time was a senior advisor to Mark Carney when Mark Carney was the governor of the Bank of Canada. He's taking over the energy and natural resources file. That's going to be key as the government looks to try and repair some of the relation issues that we're having at the moment with Alberta speaking out, saying it's feeling ignored. Energy, of course, another key element to the U.S. trade issue. So that's going to be an important one. Marjorie Michel is the Minister of Health. Maninder Sidhu, International Trade. Evan Solomon, a former broadcaster who became friends with Carney as well. He is the new Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation. And then Jill McKnight as well at Veteran Affairs. So a lot of new faces joining the ministry on top of secretaries of state as well, who will be sort of assisting the ministries in general, but have more specific files that they're going to be paying attention to.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the regional representation. Across Alberta and Saskatchewan, the Liberals won only 3 ridings on election night. They have managed, however, to place people in the cabinet from both Alberta and Saskatchewan. What can you tell us?
Yeah, so Buckley Bélanger is the Secretary of State for Rural Development. He is the lone MP from Saskatchewan. That was something that hasn't been done for the Liberals since, I believe, 2019. They haven't elected somebody in Saskatchewan. Formerly, they had Ralph Goodale, who is now the ambassador to the UK. So he takes over. Now, there were two Alberta MPs who potentially could have gotten a spot in cabinet. One of them is left out. Corey Hogan, he is a Calgary MP. He is not in here, but Edmonton MP Eleanor Oslowski, I apologize if I messed up that name, but is the Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience. So she gets a spot in cabinet. And once again, that is going to be key as the government tries to deal with Alberta separation, Western alienation issues that have been bubbling up after the Liberals won their fourth term, with both the premiers of Alberta and Saskatchewan speaking out about the federal government quite a bit in recent days.
Okay. What is next for these parliamentarians? I guess it will be the election of a speaker later this month, Cormac.
Yeah, so on the 26th, Parliament technically resumes with the election of the speaker, so we should have a new speaker on the 26th. A number of names are popping up for that, including Chris D'Entremont, who was a deputy speaker, as well as Greg Fergus, who was the speaker before the election. And then on the 27th, we have the speech from the throne, and it really will be a speech from the throne with King Charles coming to Canada to deliver that speech, setting out the agenda for the Carney government over the next 4 years or less whenever we have the next election. This is a minority government. But also, these ministers are going to have to hit the ground running. There's only a couple of weeks until Parliament returns, and it's going to be a short spring sitting in which Carney has promised some quick action. He wants to cut taxes for Canadians. He also wants to have all federal internal trade barriers removed by July 1st, and he's hoping that he can get all the premiers on board to do the same so that we can have free trade within Canada by Canada Day. But there are a lot of other issues. We've got the G7 summit in Alberta. We've got the trade war with the U.S., where we're going to be getting more in depth with negotiations. There is a lot on the line here and a lot that has to get done in a short amount of time, at least, before the summer break happens. So a lot of work ahead for this new cabinet.
Okay. Thank you so much, Cormac McSweeney. Great to hear from you today. Our Parliamentary Bureau Chief at News Radio at Rideau Hall today.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
Well, let's get some immediate reaction to the Prime Minister Carney cabinet unveiling today. Talk about some other issues as well. Professor Ian Lee is back with us from the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University. Good to hear from you.
My pleasure.
So Prime Minister Carney has now unveiled his cabinet. So based on what you see, what do you think of the choices, Professor?
I've been watching it since 10 o'clock, each swearing. In fact, I've got my TV on right now on mute. It's mixed bag. I mean, there's some good, very good choices, very good, strong cabinet ministers. So this is not, I'm going to tell you it's all bad. It's not all bad. There's some good choices, and then there's some that we don't yet know because they're brand new. They're rookies. And you don't know how a rookie will turn out until they perform. And then there's one spectacularly bad choice, which is most unfortunate because I thought it marred today's cabinet. But let's deal with the good news first. I mean,
okay.
Minister Anand, I believe, is one of the most competent ministers that have served in the any federal cabinet in probably the last 3/4 of a century. She is just an extraordinary individual. I've never met her. I read some of her speeches. She served, I think, in 6 different portfolios. Everyone agrees across the spectrum. She's extraordinarily competent, extraordinarily intelligent. I believe she was a professor of law, I believe, at University of Alberta before she went into politics. So that's the best pick of the day. Okay, she's just top notch, and Melanie Joly going to she's not a superstar, I don't think, but I think she's competent and she's dedicated, and I think she'll do well in industry. She's not. I don't think we're going to find out. I don't think she's somebody who believes that the government should drive everything, including innovation and building houses and that sort of thing. But we're going to find out. I was disappointed that Minister Champagne was reappointed as finance minister. And
Why is that?
let me immediately say, I think he's a smart guy. Okay, he's a former professor. I think he's an economist. Smart guy. But I've just been so disappointed in him going around, saying that, it's the role of government to determine and drive innovation. It was Champagne who was the salesman on the battery plants. And anyone who's studied economics, and he's an economist, has known, that's in a private economy, which we have, a market economy. It's not the role of government to build houses or build battery plants or build cars or run airlines. That consensus was established, oh my God, back in the 80s. And the wealthiest and most successful countries don't do that. And it's not that he's a bad person. It's just that he's got this baggage of state intervention that he's never been able to get around. And I was hoping he was going to appoint Mr. Hodgins, who did make it into the cabinet in a more junior portfolio. He's the former CEO of Goldman Sachs. He's stellar. I was
Goldman Sachs Canada. The Canadian operations of Goldman Sachs. Yeah. So just a few corrections. Anita Anand was a professor at the University of Toronto. Just so people know.
Sorry, I don't know.
Okay, and Francois Philippe Champagne is. I'm sorry.
She's from Alberta, isn't she?
I don't believe so, but
anyway,
nevertheless,
listen, she's fantastic wherever she's from.
Okay, yeah. University of Toronto is kind of her home base, and Francois Philippe Champagne is also a lawyer. He's not an economist; he's a lawyer.
I take that back then. Although he still should know better. If you're going to be
from
the
University of Montreal, anyway,
the finance
University
minister is responsible for the economy. And I just don't believe that any finance minister in any political party should be saying, oh, yeah, it's our job to go and build battery plants or airplanes or name your industry or company. That's not the role of
the was
government.
That the big disappointment, or was there somebody even bigger than that?
I'm sorry? I thought I think his name's Kevin Hodgins. I wished he'd been
Hodgson,
finance.
Yeah. But so is Champagne's appointment as reappointment, I guess, as Minister of Finance, is that the big disappointment, or is there even a bigger disappointment?
No. Okay, let's get on to that.
We only have a minute
I'm not
left. So.
partisan at all, okay? I mean, I'm telling you, there's some really good people in that cabinet. Evan Solomon got appointed. I'm very happy. I really am. He's a very smart guy. I used to be interviewed by him when he was on Power and Politics on CBC. So there's some really good people there today. But there's one spectacular miss, one spectacular failure, and his name is Mr. Stephen Guilbeault, who I personally believe, was the most destructive cabinet minister of since World War II. He's caused more damage to Canada in his absolute public hostility to anything natural resources. Pipelines, tankers, LNG, oil and gas, you name it. He's opposed to it. And that's what we need to pivot to become less dependent on the United States. And this guy was reappointed to cabinet. Huge mistake. Now, let me immediately turn around and say, but I applaud Carney, Prime Minister Carney, big mistake for appointing him, but then he mitigated the error, the mistake, by appointing him to an inconsequential, unimportant, in my view, portfolio that is far, far away from anything economic or natural resource or environment.
Okay, well,
I think it's Canadian identity or something. And
Canadian identity and culture. I mean, it's what you would used to call heritage. So there will be some.
And so let him go out there
it,
and he can, be woke or whatever he wants to do. He's not. Let's be very clear. He's not going to be able to screw up the economy because he's not going to be responsible for pipelines or resources. Or economic development, none of the economic portfolios.
Yeah, but heritage. Well, there will be some stuff dealing with things like, I think, online harms and the streaming services and stuff like that. So there will.
You're right.
He will have an impact.
I think he'll be very radical yet again. He's probably going to reintroduce the Broadcast Act, but I think that there's a building from all the op-eds I've read across the spectrum. Not just the Post, the Globe and Mail, the Star,
We have,
the Hub.
Okay.
I think
we'll stop here. We'll pick it up. We're over time. Chrystia Freeland is going to stay in her role as Minister of Transport and the minister responsible for internal trade. So trade barriers, interprovincial trade barriers is going to be her thing. What do you think about that? Just quickly on that.
I think it's a tough job. The premiers, for all of their bloviating, saying we're on board, we want to reduce all these trade barriers. I don't believe them. I just don't believe them, and that starts with Premier Ford. But it didn't all the other premiers. I'm not trying to pick on him. The Liberal and Conservative, they put them there in the first place. Let's be clear, everybody. They put these trade barriers there, and now they're all of a sudden saying, "Oh, I don't believe in what I've been doing all my life, creating trade barriers to protect the local economy against competition from other countries, other companies from other provinces." So she's got her work cut out for her, and I don't know if she has the strength and the political capital to pull it off, but I wish her well.
Right. It's kind of a fall for her, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, she was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, very high-profile job, and then the Minister of Finance, Deputy Prime Minister under the Trudeau years. And
I thought it was very much of Carney to reappoint her because he could have. Remember, she had very, very tiny, support when she ran for the leadership. So there was no political justification that he had to reward her because she had come so close. She didn't.
Right.
And she had slipped. And remember, she had put the knife, although I was very happy that she was, her decision led to the resignation of Trudeau. And by the way, there were millions of Canadians who thought so too. But there were probably some people in there that thought, that's not a good thing. And so I thought it was very decent of him to put her in, but I'm glad he put her in a lesser portfolio.
Okay. Finally, we have this kind of tiered structure, but cabinet is still pretty large, almost 40. It's at 38, I guess. 28 full cabinet ministers, and then we have this thing, secretaries of state, not parliamentary secretaries, secretaries of state. For example, we have somebody who will be the Secretary of State for Rural Development, Secretary of State for Sport. What do you think about how he structured this here?
Well, we've had Secretaries of State before. They go all the way back to Pierre Trudeau, number one. So it's not radical. At the same time, he spun this, and their whole team spun this as there's going to be a much, much smaller cabinet. Absolute nonsense, everybody. Yeah. If everybody understands arithmetic, and we all do, 30 plus 8 or 28 plus 10 or whatever it is, it's the same old cabinet before. But what he did is they're playing games. And the game is, we'll create two classes and we'll pretend that the secretaries are not cabinet ministers. Under the act that regulates the appointment of cabinet ministers, they are cabinet ministers. They're junior cabinet ministers, but they're still cabinet. They're sworn in.
Right.
I've just been watching them getting sworn into the.
So if I said it's still the same old bloated cabinet, you would agree?
Exactly. That's my point.
Okay. All right. We'll wrap it up there. Thank you. Speak soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Professor Ian Lee, always with an opinion, no matter the news. From Carleton University.
The Newsday panel.
And the gang is all here on Cabinet Unveiling day for Prime Minister Carney. Neil Brody is with us, longtime conservative strategist, commentator. Hello, Neil.
Good afternoon, Rob.
And Chris Day, Senior Vice President, Hill and Knowlton. Welcome back. Great to hear from you today.
Thanks so much. Good to be back.
So it's Ottawa's favorite parlor game, who goes where on Cabinet Day. And now we know who is going where. So what messages is Mark Carney sending with these choices for cabinet ministers, Neil Brody?
Well, he came in earlier this month, or I guess at the end of last month, and had a press conference and said he was going to, he had a mandate for big change. He was going to work quickly. There was going to be a new Canadian economy. He was going to build big, build bold, and build now. And he also had to show some separation from the Trudeau government. So you've seen some trusty Justin Trudeau ministers dropped, Bill Blair, Jeanette Petitpas-Taylor are out. Jonathan Wilkinson, somebody who was in Justin Trudeau's wedding party, are out. But the big cabinet positions where work has to be done quickly, build big, build bold, are all still there. Mr. Champagne, Ms. Freeland, Ms. Jolie, Dominic LeBlanc. So I think he's tried to balance between getting some fresh blood in to look like everything's new, but keep the trusted old guard in the positions where work has to be done fast and furious.
Okay. What would you say, Chris Day?
So the idea of having a two-tiered cabinet for speed and action, I think, is an interesting one. He's got a core group of ministers that he's going to be making decisions with, and others brought in on an as-needed basis, which I think is going to be a very interesting thing for Canada to watch, because it happens in a lot of other places, but not so much here in this way. As Neil points out, there's a lot of new faces around that table, newly elected MPs in some cases. So they're learning where the bathrooms are on Parliament Hill, while also learning how to be a minister. So that'll be an interesting thing. And, one thing that struck me was that there's a fair bit of bench strength in terms of, people who have experience as provincial finance ministers and, running really large companies like IBM that have not been put into cabinet. So given the economic period that we're in right now and the focus on the economy that was there during the campaign, I found it curious that some of those people were left on the benches. So we'll see how.
Who comes to mind on that then, Chris?
Well,
who are you speaking?
Carlos Lighthouse of former Quebec finance minister, Charles Sousa, former Ontario finance minister, Claude Gay, the former CEO of IBM Canada. Those are all people who have a lot of really deep financial and corporate experience that I thought might be useful to a cabinet that is ostensibly focused on saving, protecting Canada's economy and managing this sort of realignment economically and security-wise. So curious choices in some cases, and we'll see how those people get deployed and more interestingly, perhaps, if they get bored. What
do I really want to get at is this was an opportunity for Mark Carney to put his stamp on his government and say, I'm not Justin Trudeau. I'm different from Justin Trudeau. I take the economy a lot more seriously than Justin Trudeau ever did. And this is going to be a marked departure from what you saw during the Trudeau years. How much of that was delivered today, do you think, Neil?
I agree with
Chris.
I agree that there are new faces, and the new faces have a lot of work to do. I think Mr. Carney has separated himself from Justin Trudeau enough to be able to point in the next election, whether it comes sooner or later, that he is not the same. He's got, one of his big commitments was to reduce government spending. So he's got a new president of the Treasury Board. He's got a new minister for what's called government transformation. And he's got a new minister for artificial intelligence and digital innovation. I assume that those three ministers, Joel Lightbound, Evan Solomon, and Gregor Robertson, will be working on this savings plan, streamlining government, finding efficiencies, which is a big deal. He's got a new housing minister. One of his big planks, something that he updated Canadians about earlier this month in his only Canadian news conference, that he was going to start a new housing crown corporation in order to build 500,000 houses a year or something like that. So the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure, and something else is going to have is new, and it's going to have a huge thing on his plate to get this out the door and on the way.
Do you think, Chris, that he has put a Carney stamp on this to the point where it is a marked departure from what Mr. Trudeau offered us? What do you think?
To a degree. I mean, there are, by my count, 24 new members of cabinet today.
Okay.
However, the core team still features a lot of the same players that were, around Coach Trudeau, right? So Coach Carney's put them in new positions, playing new roles. But we'll see if the line gets any more productive, right? I happen to think that this will be a very sort of centralized government, and what Prime Minister Carney wants, Prime Minister Carney will likely get. In a way that even Prime Minister Trudeau and maybe other past prime ministers weren't able to sort of command that loyalty and attention. I think that will be something to watch over the coming weeks and months.
Okay, we'll talk about this a little bit more when we come back. Cabinet. So any day a new ministry is unveiled, there are bound to be winners and losers. When you look at this list and who's on it and who is not on it, who are some winners, who are some losers? Neil Brody.
Listen, I think David McGuinty is a winner. He gets the National Defense Portfolio. That's a big step up from someone who was not in cabinet 4 months ago.
Right.
I think Gregor Robertson from BC, going from Mayor of Vancouver to Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, the responsibility to stand up, as I said in the last segment, a new Crown Corporation is a pretty good winner. Evan Solomon will be on the front of government policy for the next couple of years as Minister of Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation. I think those folks are all winners. I don't know about the pre-existing ministers. Minister Jolie gets industry. Christopher Freeland gets transport. I don't know if those are considered winners, but certainly the new folks coming into large portfolios are certainly winners.
What do you think, Chris?
Agree that those anyone who gets in, that ticket to cabinet is a good one to get. The losers are those who were sort of brought in 2 months less a day ago, I would argue. So the Rachel Ben Dyan, Nate Erskine Smith, Cody Blois. Those are folks who were brought in, given a role over a caretaker government period, and said Ali Hassi as well, brought in, given a role, and said, today, thank you for your service, and what did you do over the last 2 months? There's a number of government departments, and some very big government departments that reflect the priorities of Canadians: housing, health, immigration, etc., that are going to be receiving their third minister in calendar year 2025. So, in a lot of ways, there's a lot of churn and a lot of uncertainty, a lot of restarts, and a lot of learning that's going to need to happen over the next few weeks.
In some ways, that has to stop. There has to be some consistency in some of these. Anita Anand is going to be the Minister of Foreign Affairs. It's going to be her 7th portfolio.
Yeah.
7th.
And each time these things happen, there's a huge, learning curve for everybody involved.
Sure.
Yeah. And then I'm hearing that there's going to be a deputy minister shuffle in the next couple of days. So there's going to be new ministers in ministries, new deputy ministers in ministries, all at a time when, we were told that this was, we need to move, we need to get building and action. That at least is going to take a bit of time to get fully underway.
Yeah. I would just add this. I think one of the big winners is Joel Lightbound, a Quebec Liberal, who was, he was on the outs, make no mistake, with the Trudeau Liberals, because remember, he spoke out during the pandemic over the wedge politics that the Liberals played. Over things like COVID vaccines during the pandemic election. He spoke out quite forcefully against that and was kind of never heard from again. And all of a sudden, he emerges, a full cabinet minister in this government, Minister of Government Transportation and Public Works and Procurement. The government of Canada is still heavily involved in a lot of public works all across the country and buys a lot of stuff. More stuff than any other corporation in Canada. So to me, I think Joel Lightbound might be the biggest winner of them all, from political obscurity to full cabinet minister. I'd like to know the story behind that, actually.
Be careful what you wish for. Government transformation is a headline part of Mr. Carney's desired outcome. So Mr. Lightbound will be under the microscope to make sure that government transforms. And if I may just point out, I don't know if they wind up in the loser column, but Ms. Freeland and Dom LeBlanc are both responsible for internal trade and trade with the U.S. Those are I don't want to call them loser files, but they are certainly hard files, and they have to again work with the actual trade minister, Minister Sadu, and Foreign Minister Anand to diversify our trade around the world. So I don't want to classify those as losers, but that's a tough way to try and sort out who's responsible for what to diversify our trade, get a new trade deal with the U.S. and get a new trade deal between provinces. My goodness.
Okay, we'll stop here and talk about a few other things when we come back. So it's a pretty quick turnaround. We're going to have the election of the speaker, then the speech from the throne, and then maybe 3 weeks of a House session. The summer break is supposed to start June 20th. So what can the Mark Carney government get done before June 20th? What's on the agenda, do you think, Neil?
Listen, they've talked about Mr. Carney has committed, to erasing internal trade barriers by July 1st, Canada Day. That's a very nice photo op. I'm not sure if it's exactly doable. Mr. Carney, who also got elected on his economic bona fides, should bring down a budget, I would imagine. If not, I don't know that he's a very good economist if he doesn't bring down a budget. So that will have to be pushed into the calendar somewhere there. And of course, with the speech from the throne and the budget, there are a dedicated allotment of days of debate on that. So time in the House of Commons between whatever it is, May 28th through June 20th, will be taken up a lot just by debating two things. Of course, they can introduce other pieces of legislation. I hear Digital Protection Act is coming back. The AI Act is coming back, relatively unchanged. So they can put up some legislation quite quickly, but work actually getting done in the House of Commons will be taken up by speech from the throne debate and if he introduces the budget debate.
Wow. Okay. Chris, what do you think? What does the government want to get done before the summer?
Yeah, the sitting calendar can be changed.
Sure.
It can go into the summer if it needs to, and the Senate will always sit longer than the House because it gets the bill afterwards, or bills afterwards. So I agree with Neil. I think you're likely to see a budget of some sort, and perhaps a couple of signature pieces of legislation either included in that or around that table.
Like the tax cut that he promised? The tax cut? Right.
He'll want that. He'll want the internal trade pieces done by July 1 so he can say, promise made, promise kept. And I think there will be a couple of other things that have come up in the discussions with the United States over the last few weeks that will almost certainly need to be addressed through regulation and legislation. So I think you'll see quick action on a number of those fronts, all of it designed to quickly grow the economic pie in ways that have been discussed over the last few weeks.
Okay, what do you see happening in the riding, some Montreal area riding, Terrebonne, where the Liberal candidate won by a single vote over the Bloc candidate, but a Bloc voter it appears as though she can prove that she voted for the Bloc by mail-in ballot, but Elections Canada rejected her ballot, and it was all Elections Canada's mistake. So who won this thing? Who knows? What's going to happen here? Do you think this stands? Neil, what do you think is going to happen there?
If it remains tied, I remember a number of years ago, I can't remember exactly when, there was a riding that was tied, and I believe the candidates agreed to flip a coin, and it was decided by a coin toss. I'm not sure if that will happen again. I like baseball, so to me, a tie goes to the incumbent. Like in baseball, tie goes to the runner.
Okay.
I don't think anybody has an appetite to have a by-election to rerun this riding and see who wins. Give it another try. But it's happened in the past that this has been decided by a coin toss.
in a minute or less, Chris. What do you think? What do you see
Well,
happening here?
yeah, I mean, this is Terrebonne is a prime example that literally every vote counts, right?
Sure.
And the electoral,
Or maybe every
commissioner
vote
needs
doesn't
to-
count.
Well, but the electoral commissioner needs to make sure that every vote does in fact count.
Right.
So, this is a bit of a schmozzle that they're going to need to figure out. Running a by-election, could happen relatively quickly. It costs a lot of money, but it will be run under circumstances where everybody knows who the government's going to be, unlike on election day.
Okay.
Does that tilt the scales in one favor? Who knows? It will be interesting to see what Elections Canada comes up with here.
Hey, lots of fun today. Lots to talk about. We'll speak soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Rob.
Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye. Yeah, Neil Brody, longtime Conservative strategist and commentator. Chris Day, Senior Vice President at Hill & Knowlton. Talk back. Coming up next.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today's topic is the middle class. The middle class. Here's the main question for you today to get the conversation going for another Talkback. Do you think you can live a comfortable middle class lifestyle on the middle income in Canada? What do you think? Do you think you can live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle on the middle income in Canada? And what is the middle income in Canada? Well, according to a recently released report from Statistics Canada, the middle income in this country is $74,200 a year after tax. After tax, $74,200 a year. That was the median after-tax income in Canada for the most recent year for which statistics are available, which was the year 2023. $74,200 a year after tax. If that's what your family is bringing home after taxes every year, you are right in the middle. And half of Canadians are making more and half of Canadians are making less, and you are right in the middle. So I guess you could say that would make you middle class. Not quite. 75 grand a year after taxes. Can you enjoy a comfortable middle class lifestyle in Canada if you are earning after taxes that kind of money? What do you think? What would you say? Give it some thought and give us a call. The number to call, 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. So to fully flush this out, we will kind of run down what we would say is a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada. And we have a good idea of this because pollsters have asked that very question over many years in this country. There's really no carved in stone definition of what it means to live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada, but we have a rough idea if you read some of the polling results about what Canadians view as a comfortable middle-class lifestyle. It usually, lands on people achieving a certain level of worry-free comfort. Not poor, but certainly not living large. Just kind of comfortable. Decent paying jobs, full-time jobs, decent education, some college or university. They can afford to own a house. Can afford the mortgage payment, can afford to go on a vacation every now and then, can afford to eat out in a restaurant every now and then, can afford to enroll their children in extracurricular activities. Maybe that's a sports program or an arts program, whatever it may be. Keep the children occupied and busy and entertained. Pay their bills on time. Maybe even stash away a little money into a savings account for retirement or for a rainy day emergency fund. When pollsters ask about the middle-class lifestyle in Canada, those are the answers that typically come back. That's what it kind of looks like. Not extravagant by any means, but comfortable, middle class. And to land, as I say, on the income scale, right smack dab in the middle. That number these days in Canada, according to the government's own statistical agency, is just a little bit less than $75,000 a year after taxes. $74,200 a year. So if you think about getting paid every 2 weeks, okay, after taxes, that would work out to be $2,853.85. $2,853.85 every 2 weeks after tax. You know, just tax, not the other deductions, EI, premium, CPP, contributions, whatever contributions someone might make to a company pension plan or a benefits plan, just the taxes. $2,850 every 2 weeks. $2,850 every 2 weeks. Can you live a comfortable middle class lifestyle in Canada these days, taking home that kind of money every 2 weeks? What would you say? Would you say, sure, yeah, most people should be able to live comfortably with that kind of income, just shy of $75,000 a year after tax? People should be able to do that without much stress. Or would you say, yeah, you can do it, but money might be a little tight. It might be a bit of a stretch. You'd certainly have to keep your eye on every dollar and every cent and where it's going. Or would you say no? You can't live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada on that kind of money? Not anymore. With housing costs being what they are, and the cost of groceries and fuel and just the overall cost of living, it takes more than $75,000, even after taxes, to live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada these days. You need to make more money than that. It's just not enough to live comfortably. Please share your opinion on this. We'd love to hear from you. All the politicians, they always say, we're in it for the middle class. Mark Carney just unveiled his cabinet. He is promising to pass a middle class tax cut for the middle class. Pierre Poilievre was trying to sell people on his version of the middle class Canadian dream, a powerful paycheck that would get you a nice home on a safe street. And Justin Trudeau, how many times did he say it over his 9 years? How hard he was working for the middle class and those hoping to join it. Well, now we know what it takes to at least make it to the middle. It's $74,000 a year after tax, and you are in the middle. But can you live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada making that kind of money? Join our discussion today. Give us a call. Our call-in line, 1-833-668-2577. 1-833-668-2577. If you've never called before, just mention that to us, and we'll make your call a priority today on the Tuesday Talkback on News Radio. The middle class is our topic of the day. The middle income in Canada is now a little more than $74,000 a year after taxes. Do you think it's possible to live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada earning that kind of money? Would you say, yes, should be relatively easy to do so? Yes, but it's not easy, or no, it's not possible to live that kind of life earning that kind of money. 1-833-668-2577. Mike is up first in Ontario. Hello, Mike.
Hi, Rob. I just recently
Mike.
retired.
Now, Mike, Ontario's a pretty big place. Like, where are you in Ontario?
I'm in Kincardine, Ontario.
In Kincardine. Okay, good to know.
Okay. But for years, I lived in the Greater Toronto Area, region of Waterloo, right? I would say there's a number of factors here. Where you live, like you're in the GTA and you're paying $25,000, $30,000 a year in rent or mortgage payments, that's probably not enough. What I did for my retirement, I made a conscious decision that I was moving out of the major metropolitan areas and moving to Kincardine, Point Clark. I live in Point Clark, actually. My mailing address is Kincardine. But up here, it is significantly cheaper to live. My property taxes are only about 2/3 of what they would be back in the hometown of Kitchener-Waterloo.
Right.
and it really depends on where you live. Now, if you've got your house paid for, your car paid for, right?
Yeah.
You're okay.
Yeah.
But if you're just starting out and you've got car payments, mortgage payments, and everything else, and you live in the Toronto or Vancouver area, I don't think you can do it.
Tough, right?
Right. It's tough to do it. Now, I'm in the end of my career. I just retired 2 months ago. I have lots of friends who are moving away from Ontario. Some have moved to New Brunswick. Some have moved to PEI, one to Newfoundland. And they did it. They sell their $2 million home in Toronto, and they buy a $400,000 home in Newfoundland, where my one friend lives in Port aux Basques. And yes, you can.
And they live like kings. Yeah.
And they live like kings, right? But $74K, if you're paying property taxes, you're paying rent or mortgage for a shoebox condo in Toronto or Vancouver, no, I don't think you can do it. But if you're in a smaller town like I am, and I made a conscious decision to get out of the Republic of Toronto area, you can do it on $74K, and you can do it on a lot less if you own your house and stuff like that. It depends on your circumstances and where you live. So that's my thought.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, great contribution to the show today. You've got us off to a great start. Let's go to Joe in Kitchener. Hi, Joe.
Yeah, you know what? I think your previous caller hit it on the head, because before I was going to answer, I was looking for you for some sort of basis of comparison. So my idea of the middle-class dream for somebody who's living in the heart of Kitchener, or anywhere else for that matter, close to an urban center, is, you live in a two-bedroom apartment, you've got a car, you've got a steady job, you can afford to put food on the table, you got a used trailer that you take to a river a riverbed trailer park in the middle of BF nowhere, and that's what you call your summer home. That's what I would consider a middle class lifestyle relative to where you are. So your previous caller hit it on the head. My kids are in my house right now. They can't afford a mortgage because nobody will give them a mortgage, and they make about $74,000 each, and they still can't qualify for a mortgage. So that's
crazy.
It's all relative to where you are, Rob, and I think I'm going to have to go with the previous caller on that one. Thanks.
Yeah, I just find it, don't you think it's kind of crazy that this is the middle income as defined by StatsCan? Like, you are right in the middle, and half the people are making more and half the people are making less. Shouldn't you be able to live a middle-class lifestyle on the middle income? You would think you'd be able to.
The bar has been raised. I mean, it's changed.
The bar has been raised, yeah.
It's not what it was back in the 80s or the 70s. Now, $75,000 doesn't get you very far in this reality. And
again, I'm talking about after tax. They say this is after tax. This is after tax too, so.
Oh, after tax. Well, okay.
Yeah, this is after tax. Yeah.
Okay.
After tax.
It's not pretty.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. You have what you have to work with, and you go from there. But I digress, Rob. I don't think
okay, Joe. Yeah, all good points, though. It ain't as easy as it used to be, you would say. Thank you very much. And we are on our way as we talk about the middle class today. And the middle income, right in the middle, what they call the median. $74,200 after tax. Can you live? I mean, think about it. The classic, comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada. You've got the house, you've got the car, the kids are happy, they're playing hockey or soccer, or they're taking dance lessons, and you and your spouse are going out to dinner every now and then. You're taking a vacation. Is that possible on that kind of money? To first-time caller Jared in Calgary today. Hi, Jared.
Hey, how's it going, Rob?
I'm fine, Jared. Great to hear from you today. What would be your opinion on this?
It's doable. My wife makes roughly what you described. I don't make that much. I think last year I grossed 60. So I don't know what that works out to net.
Right. Okay.
Okay. We're in Calgary. Our house was $475. We almost had 30% down. and we've been making aggressive payments. We
Oh,
have
wow.
two old
Okay.
cars. Hers is a 2008,
Two old cars.
mine's a
Okay.
2004.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Is it doable? Yeah, but you're not living great. You're living okay.
Okay. Okay. Go to the restaurant, have a nice meal
Every once in a while, we'll do some takeout.
every once in a while.
Or, yeah, maybe
Takeout,
in a blue moon
okay.
we'll do a good meal. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What about a vacation? Do you take a trip anywhere for a vacation once a year? Or?
Rarely, unless something comes up.
Rarely. Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have
not a lot of
children?
vacations, so I think the last vacation we were on was to Italy, and that was 2017.
Okay. Well, that must have been
Since then.
nice. Go to Italy. Wow. Probably a nice
Yeah.
trip. Do you have children, Jared?
No children.
No children. Okay. Okay. Okay.
None. So it's
Right.
just.
But it's still pretty
me and my
tight,
wife.
you would say. Still pretty tight.
Well, I mean, she likes to buy organic food. We buy good food.
Okay.
I do the maintenance
Right.
on the cars, so I save money.
Okay,
there.
good
I
for
try to
you.
save money wherever I can, and
Right,
you know,
right.
we're not living horrible, but we're not
Right,
living rich.
okay.
Like if we had to replace one of our cars, it might be difficult.
Right. Okay. What kind of house do you live in? What kind of house did you get for? You said
it's
475,000 in Calgary. It must be a pretty nice house.
475,000. Yeah, it's probably up to 6 something now. I can't even remember what they estimated at this year. But
Yeah.
it's just a split entry, 1,200 up and another maybe 8 down, so 2,000 square feet altogether.
Sounds nice. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
How
bad.
old? How old would you say your house is? Fairly new, or
It was made 1977.
1977? Okay, so it must be in a pretty established neighborhood then in Calgary.
Yeah, we're
I
in
would guess
Silver
then.
Springs, so it's a nice
Silver
area. We have a nice street. It's quiet. We have a park.
Oh,
so,
sounds
yeah,
nice.
it's not
Okay.
bad.
All right, Jared. Sounds like you're doing it. You're doing it. Thank you, Jared.
We're trying.
Good for you. Hey, we haven't taken a call from Halifax yet. Can we squeeze David in here before the news? Let's go to David in Halifax. Hi, David.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi, David. So it's $74,200 a year after tax. What do you think? Can you live a comfortable middle class lifestyle on that in Halifax?
Well, first I got to say I was actually surprised, and I keep an eye on the numbers, but it's a high median, to be honest with you. It just
Okay.
goes to show, I think, the diversity between the country and the people. So many millionaires versus so many people on the poor side. But to the point of the question, I would say yes, you could live a comfortable. But I go back to the other caller who mentioned it really goes to where you live. Where are you living?
Okay. Okay.
What province are you living? You know, high tax rates on property taxes versus, you know, as he said, he was saving a third of his just by being up in Ontario somewhere. So true. I originally also, I'm in Halifax now, but I was in the Waterloo area for quite a long time. And that was probably sole income earner for the family of 4. That was at the time probably my take-home pay after taxes. And this is before COVID hit and before inflation hit. And I was thinking about that 10 years ago. Let's go back to, you know.
Okay. Just hang on. Just hang on. And we'll take that trip back 10 years ago. We'll take that trip back, but you'll have to hang on. So I want you to finish your thought, but you'll have to wait. When we come back, right after the news on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The middle income in Canada is a little more than $74,000 a year after tax. Is it possible to live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle in Canada if you make $74,000 a year after tax? Is David still with us in Halifax? David, are you with me?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So, yeah, you were talking about going back 10 years.
Well, go back 10 years. I mean, in terms of the price of gas, the price of interest rates, the
Housing.
food. We were managing with a family of 4, and like your previous caller, like maybe a 2,000 square foot, 2-story, typical executive home. Nothing great, small lot, suburban Ontario. Anyway, we were able to survive. Nickel and dimed it, but we survived. Today, with a family of 4, it would be, I would debate that.
Would debate that. Okay.
Just for the price of everything has gone up quite a lot in terms of even a mortgage rate, the down payment even to get a house. So depending on what age group you're talking about with respect to can you survive, that would be the interesting factor. An older group, people, if they were making this, huge. I mean, if I was making $6,000 a month, awesome. Because usually if you're in your seniors and you're retiring, then you should have no debt. Right. So $6,000 a month after tax. I mean, you can be traveling the world, wouldn't you think?
Yes.
But if you're a family, and I'm thinking even now here in Nova Scotia, or even where I lived in Ontario,
right,
$6,000 a month coming in after tax with a mortgage payment or whatever of $2,000 a month. You've got food gone up exponentially. You have entertainment for putting the kids into, hockey be brutal now, I imagine. Soccer, whatever, less expensive. But that would be a tough challenge. 10 years ago was much easier.
Yeah. I'm not talking about just surviving. I'm talking about having a comfortable middle-class lifestyle.
Yeah, you could do
where
it.
You're not worrying about much. Where you're not worrying about much. Okay. Thank you, David.
I'm not worried about
I got
it.
you.
No, if I had that, no.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, bud.
All right. Lee is up next in Calgary. Hello, Lee. You're on the air.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Lee. How are you today?
I'm okay. I'd have to say, I'm in Calgary.
Yeah.
I make more than what you're saying, the middle class. Like, take home yearly more than this middle class number.
Yeah.
And I find it difficult. I'm a single mom. I have a mortgage. I have a truck payment. I have a child in high school. He plays sports. I mean, yes, the bills are paid. The food is in the cupboard. He's got clothes on his back. And, every now and then we'll go on a camping trip. But I tell you, if there's something goes wrong, the furnace blows up
breaks,
or
transmission goes, whatever. Yeah.
You know what? Then that's when I'm panicking. It's okay, now I got to sit down and I got to figure out where I'm going to move this, that, and the other.
Okay.
So absolutely not. And like I said, I'm making more than that. So
you're making more than
and
that.
I'm not in I'm not in an extravagant house. My house is just over 900 square feet up and down. I have a 2017 GMC Sierra. So I'm not living extravagant. And so I don't know how people are doing it in the city, to be honest. It's just scary. It's crazy.
Okay. All right. Interestingly, thank you. You've outlined it nice. So this report, just before we take another call, a few more details here. It came out May 1st from Statistics Canada. It's one of the big annual reports from Statistics Canada. And this, Statistics Canada would have a lot of smart people working on I'm talking hundreds of people would work on a report like this. Canadian Income Survey 2023. Here it is, May 2025. So you're kind of looking in the rearview mirror to a certain extent, but it's all based on tax data from the 2023 tax year. So all based on the income tax data of people filing their income taxes, say in April of 2024. So that's why there's a lag to it. And it says the median after-tax income of Canadian families and unattached individuals, $74,200 in 2023, up slightly from the year before, an increase of 1.2%. Year before, it was 73.3. It's all been adjusted for inflation. Median, of course, means middle. You're right in the middle. Half are making more, half are making less. And I can't stress this enough. This is after tax. $74,200 a year after tax. And we want to know, can you live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle on that kind of income? A little less than $75,000 a year after tax. Where you're not really worried about too much. Maureen in Lethbridge is up next on Talkback. Hi, Maureen.
Hello.
Hi, Maureen.
Sounds like a millionaire's dream to me. My husband
Really?
and I are both seniors, and we're living on seniors' pensions. And between the two of us, we make $50,000 a year.
Right.
And we live in Alberta, supposedly one of the richest provinces.
Yes.
And
yes.
We don't get a big amount of money from anybody. So our house is paid for. It's under 1,000 square feet. It's 55 years old. Our vehicles are older. My husband has a 1990 truck, and the van we usually drive is a 2010 van.
Wow.
So it all depends on what you've done when you were younger.
Yes.
When we were younger, we made the decision that I would stay home with the children and my husband would work. And we were able to do that. But also, we didn't have any extravagant output. Like, we didn't go anywhere fancy for holidays. And the kids, knew that they couldn't have whatever they wanted. They just had to wait and see how the things were going. If we had the money for it, then we would do it. Our daughters both played softball, fast pitch, and the youngest one was dancing. She was taking ballet.
Right.
So it was tough sometimes, but looking back on it now and listening to our daughters now, they're both over 50, and they say that they're glad the lifestyle they had when they were younger. They really appreciated the sacrifices that we made back then.
Right. It sounds like you enjoyed the middle class lifestyle. It sounds like you lived the middle class lifestyle.
Probably, but it wasn't anywhere near what it is now. We didn't.
Yeah, it wasn't $74,000 a year after tax.
No,
right?
It wasn't.
No,
anywhere
but
near
everything
that.
is relative. I mean, that 1,000 square foot home. When you bought that home, I wonder how much it was. I'd be curious to know how much it was.
$17,000, I think.
$17,000. Sure.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Try and get a used car for $17,000 these days.
That's it. We're looking now, we're going to need another vehicle soon. And, makes it really difficult to think how much, it would cost us. When my husband started working as a mechanic, he was making $2.55 an hour, and that was as a licensed mechanic.
My gosh. Yeah, everything is relative, of course. Thank you, Maureen. We have to run. We're a bit over time. I really appreciate your call today, giving us some historical perspective. What would you say? 1-833-668-2577. To the phones. 3 lines available there, by the way. Michael in Vancouver. Thanks for calling, Michael.
Hi, Rob. How are you?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
Well, I'm retired at 60 with a whole bunch of money I saved when I was young. I wasn't making much.
Very good for you. Good for you.
Not really. It's not that much. I don't want to discuss how much money I have. I'm not opposed to.
Right. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, right now I'm just retired now, and I'm just living off my dividends and my interest from my investments. They go up and down, right? Right now you're talking about, no, you can't do it if you live in Vancouver. It's too hard.
Yeah, tell us what it must be like there. You're in one of the most expensive places to live in the country. So how do you do that?
Well, most of my jobs they paid less money. I started up as $5 an hour. I retired when I was making $20 an hour. I saved and invested, and people can't do it now these days, making that much money.
No way. And is it because primarily of the cost of housing, trying to pay the rent or trying to save up to buy a place? Would that be the major part of it in Vancouver?
Housing, car expenses, food.
Car expenses, yeah.
If you're buying an older vehicle, it's going to break down any time.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
True enough.
People have to be at least less than 2 years old. Because if after 5 years, the vehicle's going to go, and you can't do the repairs yourself because the technology in the vehicles. That's it.
Okay.
So it's going to be tough to live on.
Tough to live on. Okay.
Like one of the previous callers said, if you live in Newfoundland or New Brunswick, you're okay.
Yeah, well, there are different regional components to this. I mean, the median income, for example, in Alberta is a lot higher than it is in a place like Nova Scotia, for example. Yeah. It's higher in Toronto than it is in New Brunswick, for example, right? There are some regional disparities, but I guess what I'm getting at is just if this is the middle, you're right in the middle, and half of the people are making more and half of the people are making less. I mean, you should be in the middle class. And can you live a middle class lifestyle on this kind of money? I mean, if it's 75 grand a year after tax, I mean, you got to think it's almost six figures. It's almost 100 grand a year gross.
Yeah, but a lot of people
shouldn't you in Canada be able to have a middle class lifestyle if you're making 100 grand a year gross?
Yeah, you could make it if you're 100 grand, but if you're making 74,000, a lot of people have $4,000 to $6,000 mortgages.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
but we have to do something about that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad it's worked out for you. It sounds like you're a great money manager. Maybe you should.
Not really. I'm just a lifelong renter, and I'm living in a small place with family, and I want to get out and buy something with my money. Right now, it's not a good time to buy in the housing market. Everybody's flatlines,
Okay. All right. Look, it's great to take a call from Vancouver. Michael, have you called here before? Have you called us before?
I tried getting Super Bowl last year, but nah. I listened to your show.
Yeah, sometimes it's busy. Yeah, sometimes we're busy. Well, I'm glad we could fit you in today. Yeah, you're making a lot of sense. Thank you. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. 1-833-668-2577. Two lines available there now. More of your calls just ahead as we talk about living the middle-class lifestyle in Canada. Can you do it on that kind of money? 74, 75 grand a year after tax. What would you say? Brad is in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Brad. You're up next. What would you say, Brad?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. First time caller for sure.
I appreciate that, Brad. Thank you.
But no, I definitely had a couple thoughts on this one as well too. Previous to one of your callers there as well, I believe that she claimed that she was a single mom with a couple of kids there as well too. Now for myself, I'm married for about 10 years here now as well, and I've got two kids as well too. So when I hear the number of $75,000 after tax, give or take anyway too, then for me, I would kind of then naturally replicate that and say, okay, well then the average, I guess if you're married or there's two working parents in a household as well too, then they're making $140,000 to $150,000 annually. That to me feels very much like middle class, that kind of thing. Okay. How a single parent with kids, just foregoing the thought that kids are inherently just life, it gets way more expensive, when you have kids as well too. That perception of being middle class is just simply not there. I hate to say it, but it's just not. If you're a single working parent versus, someone who's married as well too, or
I will say the report says, and I'm going to read you right from the report, the median, in other words, the median after-tax income of Canadian families was $74,200 in 2023.
Yeah. So I guess my question for that is when you could in essence be a family, and maybe you can clarify this for me. Does a family define two working parents, or is that one parent with kids, or is that just like a kind of like a unit household, so to speak, where it could be one person or it could be multiple people?
It says, I'm glad, because they do define it here. An economic family refers to a group of two or more persons who live in the same dwelling and are related to each other by blood, marriage, common law union, adoption, or foster relationship.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So then my personal opinion then, understanding that is that feels pretty low. If I'm being honest.
That feels low, right?
It feels low, because to be able to do the trips, to be able to put your kids through sports, to be able to set aside some money for RRSPs, to go down that path, you realistically, in my view, you need to be at least 120,000 plus, after tax as well, to be able to kind of live that. That's my personal impression as well too. I don't think that, but again, like where I live.
Now, is that because of housing? Would you say the big driver of that is housing, the cost of housing, either a rent payment or a mortgage payment with the cost of housing the way it is?
Absolutely, and that's kind of that's my take on that as well too. Is that I think that for somebody who is middle class as well, and for it's probably going to take us. My gut feeling is it's probably going to take us 5 to 10 years before supply kind of catches up on the housing side to kind of offset the demand, so to speak, a little bit, so where housing prices become a bit more available. And that was going to be my second point, was that I do think that there has to be, like you almost have to kind of look at what defines a middle class through a different set of lenses or through a different set of classes, given how expensive housing is right now.
Yeah. Maybe it's time to rethink what a middle class lifestyle is in Canada.
Well, that's kind of where I was. What my next thought was like, if for how important housing is, like that is so critical as well too, and for how expensive it is, and how admittedly out of hand the cost has got as well. For you to be defined as middle class, you almost need to emphasize that, and then as a result of that means that
gotta go. Gotta go. We gotta wrap it up there. They're gonna cut us off. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's time to talk back
on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now
and have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Talkback. We've been talking about the middle class lifestyle in Canada. And we have been asking, do you think it is possible to live a comfortable middle class lifestyle on about $74,000 a year after tax? Because that is the middle income in Canada, according to a recent report from Statistics Canada. Now, this report would usually get some media attention when it comes out. It comes out every year, and it came out about 2 weeks ago. It got almost no media uptake because we were all focused on the election. The election was April 28th. That was a Monday, and this report came out later the same week on a Thursday, and the eyeballs were elsewhere. The dust was still settling on the election, but still a very interesting report. It highlights big regional differences. The average middle income in Alberta, for example, is a lot higher than it is in other provinces. Alberta has the highest average middle income of all the provinces at $88,500 a year. Again, after tax, $88,500 after tax. Then in second place was Ontario at $78,600 a year. And down at the bottom, a pair of maritime provinces, Nova Scotia was the second lowest at $62,900 a year, and New Brunswick at $62,700 a year. But the national number, $74,200. That was the national number. I like to kind of break things down into 2-week increments because so many people get paid every 2 weeks. I get paid every 2 weeks. David gets paid every 2 weeks. We always celebrate payday, David and I. And so we were thinking, well, what does that look like every 2 weeks on your pay stub? Keeping in mind, there could be other deductions on your pay stub other than taxes, EI, CPP, benefits payments, pension plan contributions. This report is just after tax. I should note that it also includes any government income that you get, such as a GST check, or people used to get the carbon tax rebate, child care benefit. For seniors, things like CPP, OAS, GIS, that all goes on the income side of the equation. So for some people, it's going to be income from an employer and income from other sources like the government. But it's $74,200 as the national average, which is $2,853 after tax every 2 weeks. $2,850 after tax every 2 weeks. Can you live a comfortable middle class lifestyle in the year 2025 in this country on that kind of money? Rocky is the first caller up here, hour number 2 on Talkback. Hello, Rocky. Good to hear from you.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah, hi, Rocky. Good to hear from you, Rocky. What would you say? What's your opinion?
Actually, I wanna show you my facts. My net income of family is around $85,000 this year.
Okay.
I got raised from, I'm working with the city of Calgary. So this year, my net raise for earbud is $800.
Okay.
I paid $24,000 extra for mortgage this year.
Wow.
$2,500 extra for insurance.
$2,500 extra.
Yes,
Wow.
yes, because I'm living in northeast area, because it's a hail-prone area.
Okay.
So
Okay.
the insurance is asking more and more money, and when the hail happened, they are giving approximately at average $10,000 to $15,000 for roof or other things, but they raised their deductible from $2,000 to $5,000. So half of the amount the owner have to pay. Then why they are raising insurance premium so high? I could not understand. If every business had probability of profit and loss. If they cannot afford loss, then they should leave the business.
Okay.
And
Now, to the question,
Yeah.
Rocky, we're asking here. You keep a roof over your head, food on the table, go out to a restaurant, take a vacation.
No. We are not. I could not go my back country for the last 3 years. My parents are sick there. I cannot afford expensive tickets.
Right.
I cannot afford insurance. I cannot afford high mortgage interest rate. I cannot afford.
And you're making good money, and the reason is because your mortgage payments have gone up, right? You said.
There are many things.
Mortgage insurance and the insurance rates.
Mortgage insurance, property tax, and I'm paying big amount for gas, grocery. So my net saving is almost minus and heavy minus. So.
Wow. It's a real, and you're making good money working for the city of Calgary. You said,
But I'm not receiving any deduction from federal government on the term of taxes for my increased mortgage, for my increased property tax.
Right. So your answer would be no. Despite the level of your income, which is well above what the national median income is. You're really struggling to get by. I appreciate your openness and honesty today, Rocky. We've got to run, however, and we'll be right back and take more of your calls on Talkback to Halifax. Greg is up next. Hi, Greg.
Oh, hey, Rob. 27th time caller, first time listener. No, I'm just kidding.
Appreciate it. Whatever it is.
Whatever it is. No, I enjoy your show.
Thank you.
The median is a little misleading, though, because probably the average number of families in the country that fall into that $75,000 after tax is like 25%, maybe 27%. So it's not a real indication of what is middle in Canada. You could have one person or one family making $1 million and 500 families making $40,000, which is kind of the case, and come up with a median. So, so the question I think is probably not better put, but another way of looking at it is how many people in Canada actually make that kind of money. And the stat that Stats Canada shows is that about 80% of Canadians individually make under $100,000 a year, and about 20 above that. And of course, many of them much, much less than $100,000. So the median is not really a good indication of what middle class is in reality on the ground in Canada.
Okay.
It's just a reflection of the wealth gap between some extraordinarily privileged, rich, successful people and some people who are struggling for various reasons. I think the question in my mind at least, if in a sense fairness just comes down to taxation. How do we create, is the question, a middle-class lifestyle for people? If we're going to create it, then we're going to have to start taxing people who make extraordinarily good money a little bit more. That's probably not a popular opinion on your show, but I do think that's sort of where the reality is on the ground, Rob. What do you think?
Well, or maybe tax the meaty middle a little bit less.
Yeah, well, that's one way of doing it, but it tends not to get to the same average, because if you want to pull people up into having, the ability to get by, it's not going to happen by reducing the tax on somebody who's making $40,000-$50,000 a year. It's just not. I mean, that whole tax group under $100,000 a year is just taxed to death in Canada. There's no more juice to be extracted. It has to come from a different source, and I think really, anybody, I've got
right.
I've got.
I mean, I know. I guess you don't think too much of this metric but it's right in the middle. Half are making more, half are making. It's right in the middle. You say, well, it's a flawed metric, but it's it's 74. It's 74 after tax. Right? It's 74 after tax.
Median.
It's 74 after tax.
An average, right?
I'm not saying it's the average. I'm saying it's the middle.
Yeah. No,
it's the
but
middle.
That's what some of you're not correcting your callers who are calling it an average. So I think the illusion out there is that it's an average, and it's not, because the average number of people in Canada.
Okay, well, I've been pretty clear what it means. The median means the middle, and I've said that repeatedly, that it means half are making more and half are making less. And that's how StatsCan describes it.
Argument. No, it's a semantics argument, because it can be used for a political narrative if one wants to.
No, I'm not trying to make a political narrative. I guess what I'm trying to say is this is right in the middle, 74 after tax. That's probably close to $100,000, right? Probably.
Yet the reality is that 80% of Canadians make way under that median or middle.
So my point would be, should you be able to live a comfortable? If to your point, so many people are making less than that.
Well, that's a stats.
My question is, should you be able to live a comfortable middle class lifestyle in Canada if you make this kind of money?
So if I was to just answer that question without going over the other stats, which I think are important, I would say yes, you can, because if you have $75,000 after tax, you will gravitate like a magnet to steel to whatever area of the country, whatever area of your province that will give you the chance to do that. But the problem is that number isn't actually a representative of many Canadians. So I think that is the important point, is that probably based on a 2-year-old stat from Stats Canada, only 25 to 27% of Canadian families fall into that number.
Well, again,
so it's
the most recent. It's the most recent number that's available, sir. It's the most recent number that's available, and that's why I'm running with it.
But it's an accurate number, but it's also a reflection of some incredibly wealthy people, good for them, pulling that number up to a median. So if we're trying to create a political narrative that the average Canadian family can't live off that, well, you know what? The average Canadian family doesn't.
I'm not trying to create a political narrative. I'm just asking a basic question. I'm not trying to create a political narrative. People will call in. They'll say, yes, and this is how I do it, or no, and this is why I can't do it. Like the previous caller said, well, my insurance premiums are through the roof and I'm paying too much for gas and whatever. It's not about creating political narratives. It's just about asking questions, sir. Well, you can think what you want to think.
I do.
People will hear what they want to hear, and they will disregard the rest. Thank you. Bye-bye. John, up next. Thanks for waiting, John. Hi, John.
Hi, how you doing?
In Calgary? Yeah, I'm good, John. What would you say, John?
Quick answer, no.
No.
Quick answer, no. You posed the question, and when you posed the question, you said the ability to maybe go on a vacation, things like that. I argue that when I was growing up, the middle class were people that were working hard, who were paying off of a mortgage and things like that. And I reposed the question that, is a bank going to sign off on a mortgage with a total household income of only $75,000? take home.
Yeah, nowadays, maybe not, right? Yeah.
Maybe not. But in Canada,
this is what I'm saying. Is it enough to, say, pay the mortgage or pay the rent, for that matter, feed your family, keep your children busy with some kind of activity, take a vacation once a year, and go out to dinner every once in a while?
But if you were doing all of that 20 years ago, and you were renting, I would argue that you were not middle class. I think to be middle class is to be lucky enough to have a mortgage, to be paying down that mortgage, to be able to rise above middle class. And I argue that you just won't get a mortgage on that. It's going to be impossible.
You won't get a mortgage on that. Impossible.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so because, like, if let's say he's a construction worker or a forklift operator and he's got a part-time job and she's working at the liquor store, I don't think a bank's going to sign off on that.
Okay.
As two people, if they worked hard, they could get to that. So the real question is, what careers are out there? And you talked about this the other day. That would even give you the opportunity for a bank to say yes. And I think those careers are fewer and fewer.
Okay.
So this is what makes it dismal. And no, I do not think that you could make it on that. There's no way you could go on a vacation because then you got to take 2 weeks off of work. It's too thin. It's $74,000 too thin for a household.
After tax, even though it's after tax.
Well, it depends on where you live. And you've touched on this with other callers. If you want to move to Stephenville Crossing, Newfoundland, I'm sure you could pick up a house cheap and make a go of it. But in Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto, this is
impossible.
It's utterly impossible, only because
impossible.
What I think middle class was and should be is somebody who can own a home. A basic home, a starter house. But a starter house now is what, $450,000 in Calgary? Because no bank is going to sign off on a household income of $75,000 on a $450,000 house. Yeah. So you'll rent forever. So is the middle class the renter class or is it the owner class? I believe Canada's heading into a two-tier system, the owners and the not owners.
The owners and the non-owners. Okay. And your wealth and your opportunity will be defined whether you own property or not own property.
But that's how most Canadians build wealth.
Right. Because we were thinking about doing another talk back about something along those lines.
I think it's a great topic.
Whether that is the society that maybe not that we are creating, but that we have created, that there's a property owning class and a non-property owning class. And that will be the definition of success in the future. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, John.
All right. Well,
thank you.
Thanks a lot. First time caller. Love your show. Have a great day, man.
I appreciate it. I love callers like you as well. Critical thinking is not dead around here, as we like to say. And we will be back right after the latest breaking news.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talk Back on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
The middle income, the median after-tax income in Canada, according to StatsCan, $74,000, $74,200 to be precise. That's the national median after-tax income. Can you live a comfortable middle-class lifestyle on that kind of money? 1-833-668-2577. Shirley is up next in Calgary. Hello, Shirley.
Hello there. Your
Hi,
topic
Shirley.
today really got to me, and I want to go a different way.
Okay.
I am living alone. I'm a senior. I'm retired. I'm on little less than $27,000 a year. How am I supposed to live on that? And I do.
Well, how do you do it?
With great difficulty. I buy food only that's on sale. I still have my insurance. I own my house.
Okay.
I still have the taxes to pay on the house. The mortgage. I don't have a mortgage, but I do have condo fees. And I have insurance, and I have a car, so I have insurance on that and upkeep. And I manage. I get into I have a little bit of savings, not much, but that's going to be gone soon. And then what do? It's impossible for seniors to survive if they don't have extra pensions. Really, it's impossible. The answer is no. But
the answer is no. Okay.
I am managing. Like I said, I buy food only on sale. I don't eat that much. I'm a senior, so it's not bad. But the thing is that I live a normal life, and it's not easy. It's not easy, and the government isn't doing anything about it.
Right. Okay. Have you thought about returning to the workplace? We hear this all the time. Seniors are going back to work because
I'm not able to go back to work. I'm not healthy.
Okay. Fair enough.
I have medical issues, and so
sure.
I'm not healthy enough to go back to work, and I never worked in a place where I got a pension. I wasn't that fortunate. Had I been smart, I would have gone to work for the city, but I didn't. And so, under the circumstances, I'm like I said, just under $27,000 a year. I delve into my savings a little bit every month. To the point of whatever I'm getting in my OAS and CPP is going for condo fees and insurance and property tax. And there's very little left for food.
And those are not going down. They're only going up, of course. Right. Yes.
And I mean, I don't do a lot of driving anymore, so I don't fill my car more than once a month, which is a godsend as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
But still, it's very expensive. And
what would happen? I'm just, not to probe too deeply, but what would happen if you had an emergency, like something went wrong with your car or something like that? You'd be in a hard way, or what?
Yeah, depending on how much it would be, I could pull it out of my little bit of savings, but then my savings would be gone.
Right.
So you're right. And my car is 20 years old.
20 years old. Wow. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have managed to.
Well, knock on wood. It's got a few years left.
Well, knock on wood. I have a few years left too. But the thing is,
all right, Shirley. We'll knock on wood for that. We'll knock on wood for that. I'm knocking on wood here for you, Shirley. Okay, you hang in there. Thank you.
It's not easy to survive. I tell you that. It's not.
Yeah. All right.
No.
Thank you, Shirley. Thank you. To John up next. Also calling from Calgary today. Lots of calls from Calgary today, as usual. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
I don't think we have John, do we? Is he fiddling with Bluetooth or something along those lines? All right, let's figure out John later. Let's go to Travis, is in Airdrie. Let's go to Travis and try Travis. Hi, Travis. Are you with me? Yeah, hi, Travis.
Yeah, I'm here. How are you?
Good. Thank you. Good to hear from you.
I'll do my best not to lecture you on your own radio show.
That's okay. I get lectured all the time, sir. It's okay.
Yeah, I heard before. So I am married, have 3 kids, and I made about the exact number, about $75,000 per year, just up until about 2 years ago. So we had mortgage, 2 cars that we never spent over well, you couldn't buy a car for $6,000 now, but older vehicles.
Older vehicles,
an 07 minivan and a 1998 car. And I would say we did make it, but if we wanted to go on holidays somewhere, it was picking up extra jobs for me. I'm an electrician, so comfortably, I would answer your question to say no. I don't think it was comfortable. At the end of every month, we had to live tight. I mean, our kids, like we couldn't afford minor hockey or anything like that. If you wanted those things, you had to go out work extra hours. So, short answer is no. I started my own electrical business, and now I make a bit more. And now I would say I'm living comfortably, but at $75,000 in Alberta, I think it's going to be pretty tough on one income.
Pretty tough.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Again, we're talking about family incomes, and we're talking about after taxes as well. After taxes.
Yeah, that's right. After taxes.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, like with 3 kids and just the needs, like, and this was kind of like before inflation really started going wild. It was like we couldn't save. I mean, there's no
Nothing left.
I've never had a pension, so it was very difficult to save. I mean,
Very
we're
tight.
only starting to save now. So
Okay.
but yeah, that's just kind of it was tough. We did it, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was comfortable.
Wasn't easy. Wasn't comfortable. Okay, Travis, thank you for your call. Appreciate it. Yep, we'll stop here. Be right back. Charlotte will be up next in Calgary. Hello, Charlotte.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, Charlotte. Thank you.
Good. I'm happy to just put in my 2 bits worth. But
Well,
I've
I
enjoyed all
appreciate
the
that.
callers and the conversation.
Thank you. Well, go ahead. What's your
I
opinion?
would just say, like, it depends. You know, I agree with everybody. What they said depends where you live and where you are. My
Yes.
husband and I would fit in that category, maybe just a little under. We're retired, and we live a comfortable lifestyle in retirement. But I
Good
think
for you.
a big part of the thing is what is, you know, a middle lifestyle. Like nowadays, I just find some of the younger generation, I'm not going to put them all there, but in general,
Yeah.
they do things like that I would never have done when I was raising my family and getting ahead. And that's that. They get their hair streaked, they get tattoos, they get their nails done, they got the big telephone packages. You know,
Right.
you have to.
Yeah.
I was sort of raised to be a saver a little bit. And, you know, even if
Okay.
it's $25, you'd put here and there into a savings account
Yes.
so that you have a bit of savings. So you live
Okay.
more frugally when you're younger and you can enjoy a little bit more when you get older. But I
Okay.
think expectations have changed so much over
Sure.
the generation.
Sure. Okay. Well, what did you do when you were a younger person to cut loose or express yourself, to live a little bit? What did you do?
Well, I was a single parent for a number of years, and I
Okay.
literally had $25 a month in my budget that went to my savings account.
Okay.
And basically we hardly ever ate out. We ate proper food, but when I look at shopping carts, I see pop and cookies and chips and all kinds of stuff and prepared foods and, you know,
Okay.
puddings in
Okay.
little containers and all this, whereas I still am pretty much I make things at home. We don't go out and eat that much, but we have the freedom to enjoy a nice meal out when we want. But growing up in those years, when you're in those earlier years of your life, even until you're like 50, you know, raising your kids, you need to cut back where you can on little things that young kids nowadays, families seem to think it's just part of normal living.
Okay.
Like I look at the shopping carts and I think, wow, I wouldn't have half of that junk in my cart. I mean, sorry. I mean, I
Right.
fit, I'm not just I'm talking about even my own family. You just see the
Right.
difference in how.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
All
that's
right.
just my take. It
Well, I
would
love
be
it. Yeah.
tougher with a family with kids with that income.
Yes.
You know, you have to buckle down and save some money here and there. You know, give up those tattoos and put that money in savings, or give up
All
that
right.
streaking your hair. That's just my take on it.
Okay. I love it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
There you
you.
go, David. No more tattoos for you, Dave. That's it. We're done sending you to the tattoo parlor. I'm not paying for that anymore.
If only someone
And
had
what's
told
going
me
on with
earlier.
that hair of yours?
If only I'd known. I could have made better choices. Oh, dear.
Adam in Kitchener up next on Talkback. Hi, Adam.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good, Adam. Now, you don't have any tattoos or crazy streaks in your hair, do you?
I have one tattoo. I got it when I was 18, and that's what I was 18. You know, that's what
You're
you do.
18. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
But on the
It was
cost
a
of
late
living-
night. I didn't know what I was doing there. I was
Oh,
surprised
no, I
as
knew exactly
everybody.
what I was doing.
No.
I didn't. A friend of mine went in there, and he went and had a tattoo plan. I was like, yeah, I like that, and I just did it.
Good for you.
But on the cost of living, it's you know, we bought our place. I'm approximately 41 years old, and we bought our place here in Kitchener. We bought it in the previous housing boom. before the current one. So like we thought we overpaid for what we have now.
Okay.
And the people that live next to us paid twice what we bought our place for. So
wow.
I can definitely see a struggle for anybody that's making a middle-age income or a median income to survive, at least in Kitchener-Waterloo. My sister-in-law, for example, she makes almost as much as me and my wife do combined, and she's having a hard time finding a place to buy on her own.
Wow!
At this point in time, so yeah, I can definitely see that struggle in what people are looking for these days, and there's definitely got to be a way to expand our current footprint in Ontario and all the other major cities, Calgary, Edmonton, and try to find industries that go outwards and create new
wealth, new opportunities. Yeah.
New opportunities, new, a new plant or a new whatever. And the government needs to try to find a way to do that. That's
create the environment to make that happen. Sure. Yeah. Great points all around. Thank you, Adam in Kitchener. Great to hear from you today. The middle class, and those working hard to join it. And can you make it as a member of the middle class and live comfortably on $74,000 after tax? I mean, you're basically, David, I guess, talking about somewhere between, somewhere around $6,000 in the bank account a month between, say $55,000, $6,000. Can you achieve a comfortable middle class lifestyle on that? I was thinking about some of the big expenses.
Yeah.
Canada Mortgage and Housing says the average monthly mortgage payment in Canada as of the fourth quarter of last year, Q4 2024, so fairly recent, $2,042 a month, Dave. $2,042 a month. It varies across the country. It was about that in Alberta. It was about $1,600 in Nova Scotia and $2,500 in Ontario. Between $1,600 and $2,500 a month. Just the mortgage. Okay. Remember, you only have about $6,000 to work with every month. Okay. So that's a big chunk of it right there. And as some callers pointed out, can you even get a mortgage? What's the average car payment in Canada? I was surprised by this. Rob Carrick, who is the personal finance columnist for the Globe and Mail, says the average car payment these days in Canada is $888 a month for a new car.
That actually doesn't surprise me, but maybe just because I spend a lot of time looking at cars I wish I could afford. And
we love our pickup trucks. He says the average payment on a pickup truck is at least $1,000 a month.
Yeah, it's crazy.
$1,000 a month. That's, that's pricey. So like home and car, it's kiss one paycheck goodbye.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The Food Professor's annual report on food costs, that annual report they come out with, the food price report.
Yeah.
Says the average monthly bill for a family of four for food in Canada. So, two parents, two children, $1,400 a month.
Yeah. Food is stupid. It's stupid how
$1,400 a month
food is. It's crazy.
Like we haven't insured the house, haven't insured the vehicle, haven't paid for heating, lighting, property tax, internet bill, cell phone bill. What does all that stuff cost? I bet you're nudging up against $5,000 already, David, when you add it all out. You haven't gone out to a restaurant. Haven't enrolled anyone in an extracurricular activity. Your children in extracurricular activities. Haven't put gas in the car. Yeah, I almost forgot about gas. Need gas to get around. The average Canadian spends about $2,000 a year on gasoline, Dave. $166 a month.
Yeah.
On gasoline.
Okay. Yeah. Long commutes in lots of parts of this country. Yeah.
Right. So now we've probably easily, with all of those costs blown through, $5,000, closing in on $6,000. Haven't taken a vacation yet. Allianz Global Assistance Canada Vacation Confidence Index study says the average Canadian household spent $4,000 on a vacation last year. $4,000.
Okay.
Another $333 a month if you average it out over 12 months. If we haven't hit $6,000, you can easily see it from there. But are you living comfortably? You have the house, you have the car, your children are taken care of, everyone's fed, enjoying activities, eating out now and then, maybe take a vacation once a year, but you're pretty much tapped out. I'm Rob Snow, back tomorrow, brand new topic, and more of your calls on Talkback on News Radio.